All right, everybody, welcome. If you're tuning in, let me see here. This was originally going to be our first broadcast from Twitch. We were having way too many technical difficulties, as usual. What, Josh? So, Twitch was Twitch or OBS. Probably OBS was just not having it. Okay, but we'll get it on here. No. Go live. What's up, everybody? What's up, Tom?
What's up, dude?
God, I don't know what was going on with OBS. It's just the program going on, I guess. I don't know.
And
But yeah, sorry everybody who was trying to tune in to Twitch. We were just having way too many problems. This is just easier for now. But I don't know. Maybe one of these days we'll switch over. But how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Happy Saturday afternoon.
Yeah,
It,
absolutely.
it's sunny in California. Been looking forward to chatting with you.
Absolutely. It is sorry, I messed up my camera here. It is a rainy, dreary day here in West Virginia, but you know.
That's how it goes. We could use one of those here. Like, everything's so dry, it looks like it would catch fire if you looked at it long enough.
Kind of does every so often, don't it?
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, shit, man. What you been into here lately, huh? Much any? Trying to find my thing here. There it is. Try to have like a little bit of a outline for these. There we go. Anyway, before we get started, got to do the shameless plugs here. Anybody that hasn't checked out our merch store yet, there's a link in our bio, all that good stuff. Make sure to follow us on everything, Facebook, YouTube, you know, all the typical places. Yes, Josh, I'm a sellout. Anyway, so all right, man, what's going on? What's going on in the Carcass camp right now?
You'd have to ask them, man. Last time I saw any of those guys was last March.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've been texting Bill quite a lot about the Euro football or championship just going on. Just going back and forth about that. But all the album release stuff is totally on those guys. I'm just a live guy.
Gotcha. What is the status on the whole new album, dude, as of right now?
It's coming out in September. I can't remember the exact day. There's a single out. I think Dan put a drum playthrough video for it out yesterday, which was awesome. It's nice to see him playing again.
All right. I've checked out the single and everything. Haven't got to look into it too much beyond that. It sounded killer.
It does. I've had a copy of the album for a little while, and I think everyone will love it when it comes out. I definitely do.
Awesome. How much did you get to like attribute as far as like writing and stuff goes?
Oh, totally zero.
Really?
Yeah.
Bill just kind of took the reins on that.
Yeah, it made sense to me. Like when they started working in earnest on the record, I was brand new. Like I just started doing shows with them. It would have been very strange, I think, for them to welcome me into the writing process that early.
That makes sense.
So the way it kind of worked, I've only done fly-in gigs with them so far, like festivals and things. So we'd fly in, do a show, then we wouldn't see each other for 2 or 3 months, and in the in between time, the three of those guys were like working on the album together. So that a long time. There was about an hour, probably a year or so of that, maybe longer.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, I know we're all excited to hear it, man.
I,
Uh,
one of the biggest tragedies of last year for me is that it didn't come out already. And given everything else that happened, that's big.
yeah, man, what I'm looking forward to is actually getting to see them again with you instead of Ben.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude. Like, it's been a few years since I got to see them play, and I mean, I just sounded absolutely killer. Uh, but I'm trying to remember. I'm so bad with song titles. Um, there's a harmonized lead run. Uh, I think it was off of Surgical Steel. I'm trying to remember. There's like a really, really awesome lead, like dual lead run.
You might be talking about Captive Bolt Pistol. Really, really.
Yes, yes, yes. That's that one. Um, I don't know. For a guitar nerd, it was sort of just like I don't know, one of the highlights for me.
I remember having that exact feeling. I saw them at a big festival in England in 2014, and when they played that bit, my eyes just like rolled back in my head. I was like, "Come on!" Like,
It's like it's enough just to pull off a cool run like that, but actually getting it that super tight. Uh, are you guys going to be playing that live anytime soon, or?
who knows? It really depends how long the sets are going to be and how many of the new songs the guys want to play live, I guess.
Yeah,
I've watched them enough times. Like the art of writing a Carcass set list is kind of interesting because depending on how long you've got, there are some songs that I think will probably always be in the set, like
right,
Artwork and like Corporeal Jigsaw Quandary, Incarnated Solvent Abuse. Like songs like that, it'd be weird if they weren't there.
right.
So then, like in a 45-minute set, immediately thinking, oh, what else is there time for?
Yeah. And,
So when
well,
the thing I think everyone's looking forward to the most is when they're doing a headline tour and they can do like a good like 75 minutes or
oh
longer
yeah,
and throw in a good number of deep cuts as well.
oh for sure. Those are always the best.
We played Tools of the Trade at the very last show we did before lockdown, and I was like super excited about that because I think the last time they played it was 1992 or something.
Huh? Damn. Well, since we are a gear page, we'll just go ahead and dive right into it. What kind of gear do you have on hand at the moment?
In the room where I spend all my life at the moment, I have a Kemper profiling amp, which I plug straight into my computer, and a 4x12 as well, just for any kind of random jamming or recording. I normally use that.
Hmm.
When I want to blast out Carcass practice stuff, I've got my Launchbox EVH 5153. Not because I wouldn't like to have a 50 watt, head and really, really go loud, but I don't think my neighbors would like it.
Exactly. Uh, is the 50 watt your go-to for live shows?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the way it works, the band does have a couple of those heads as their own backline. I think there's a in the UK certainly there's a 50 and there's a 100. Bill normally takes the 50, so I normally use the 100. And I
Okay.
think like some stored in the US somewhere, but we've never used them because all of the shows I've done, bar one, I think we've just like rented gear, like sent a tech riser ahead and then rider ahead, and then hopefully we get what we ask for.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, the EVH heads are everywhere, so that makes sense.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I didn't. It's not something I've really had a lot of input into because when I first met up with the guys for a jam, like those were the heads we used. And Bill kind of explained, "I love the way these sound, and these are what we have."
Hell yeah. Um, I don't know. I've heard a lot of people kind of prefer like the 50 watts over the 100 for some. Like I had a 50 watt Marshall some years back, and I liked it. It was like one of the JCM 2000s,
Mm.
and I've played a 100 watt version of that amp, and the 50 watt. I don't know. You get it cranked up 11 to 12 o'clock or whatever, and it just sounds so much meaner, and it's like I don't know. It's like you're listening to a Slayer record while you're playing or something.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I mean the feeling of standing like 10 feet back from one of those things when it's cranked is like it's like nothing else. Like I look forward to rehearsals with those guys almost as much as the actual shows, because I get to hear everything better and just get totally crushed by those gigantic amps in a small room. Like, it's rad.
Absolutely, for sure. I guess that's also sort of the kind of the Carcass formula at this point is a 5150 kind of amp, like a 6L6 5150 American style amp, and then boost it with like the governor, right?
Well, that's what I've tried doing. Certainly, Bill only uses like an MXR, what's it called, micro amp as his boost. Like, it's a super clean one.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. His pedal board is very tidy. It's just that, a noise gate, and a tuner.
Wow.
No effects loop or anything. I use something with a little more gain as my boost, just because I need it to cover up my mistakes. Just make what it does. Like when you've just
Yeah.
got the amp, it just helps a little bit. Definitely for solos, and like if there are bits where we need feedback to ring out, like that takes all the thought out of it, really.
Hmm. That really surprises me. I never. Well, Bill's a really old school dude when it comes to his gear and tone. So
Yeah, the whole band is really like,
yeah.
band doesn't use triggers. Like Jeff just does like a kind of DI and a stage amp. I think it's a blend that goes to front of house. I'm not entirely sure. No in-ear monitor, obviously no click tracks or anything. Like Dan triggers the song intros from an iPod. Like it's all very hands-on.
Hmm. That's awesome. I mean, less things to go wrong that way, you know?
You'd be surprised how much can still go wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
Definitely, at some quite big shows with the band, basically just played air guitar while someone ran around behind trying to figure out why the guitar had gone quiet. You just got to do it
Yeah,
with small. Hopefully, no one notices.
right. I've I played I had one like nightmare show where literally everything in my chain almost went wrong. Um, I had I was playing my Eclipse, which has like EMGs in it. The battery died. Um, then the tubes in my amp were dying, so like I lost like half volume. Um, we had one backup guitar between me and the other guitarist. So he loaned me his guitar, um, which I didn't know. One of the tuning pegs was messed up.
Oh no.
So like you could sit there and take your finger and like flick it, and it would like spin the tuning peg. And I was like I was sitting there trying to just tune up real quick. I'm like, what on earth? Um, and like I had the G string. It was on the G string too, and
Always.
and apparently I didn't realize this because I was going into like a tuner pedal or whatever. Apparently I was like G an octave down.
That could be cool.
It wasn't because the next song there was like this dual harmony thing that we did, and I was playing the upper harmony, which was mainly on like the G and B strings, and
Oh man.
so I'm just sitting there playing through. I'm like, what is happening? Oh, and we had to borrow a tube amp too, um, from the headliner. They were guys that we knew, and they were really cool, and their singer loaned me his amp in like a last ditch effort to save it, but that the backup guitar just kind of killed it. I just took it as a loss and moved on.
Sometimes you got to do that, man. Like, the show must go on. We had one. It was a festival in Norway in 2019 where I think we had like 13 pieces of luggage with us flying in from Estonia the night before, and
Mm-hmm.
two arrived. Like, so we were down. All we had was two of Bill's guitars, and I
Oh
think
wow.
we carried on. So we ended up doing the show with no pedals. We had to like rent a backup guitar, which was for me and Bill to use, and then I used Bill's backup guitar. And that was it. And then just whatever amps they had on stage for rental. I think they were both 6505s. It wasn't an EVH, but it was pretty close.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
pretty good. We'd only had about 2 hours sleep that night, and then showing up without any of our gear. Just like, well, fuck it. We've still got to play. Let's see how it goes.
Right.
We enjoyed it, but it's nice when you've got gear that works and it's what you chose to use, but it's not always the case. You still gotta, try and make it sound good without sometimes.
That's kind of another one of the I guess the benefits of a somewhat minimalist rig is that if for whatever reason you have to make do with something else, either backline or maybe you're just split something with one of the other bands, they loan you something real quick on the spot. If you don't require, if you're not like a shoegaze band and you have some giant pedal board with like 20, 30 pedals, if you got to go without, the music's really not going to suffer that much.
That's right. Yeah, it's a really, really cool approach. That Carcass have being so minimal with it, and it's one I really, really admire. I didn't realize how minimal it was until I was involved with them. But, but yeah, there's absolutely no safety net. The best you can hope for is if you're having a really bad night, the front of house guy might mute you. But that's about it.
Right. You'll always have that the chaos factor there.
Yeah, definitely. It wouldn't be as fun without it, I don't think.
Right. It's rock and roll, right?
Yeah, I've always thought of Carcass as being like, especially like later day Carcass as being kind of a rock and roll death metal band in a way.
Oh, absolutely. Uh, I feel like I can't help but feel like Bill would probably be the biggest proponent of that idea too. He just he just comes across as like the classic rock dude. You know what I mean?
Well, that's actually what he and I bonded over when we first met.
Yeah.
I take over his gig. He was playing guitar in Angel Witch when Surgical Steel came out.
Okay.
His calendar was too busy to do both bands.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing we bonded over. It was like obscure new wave of British heavy metal bands and stuff.
Which are pretty sick, by the way. I don't think I don't think I've had any guests to bring up new wave British heavy metal on the show too much, but I like it. I'm trying to think like Raven.
Yeah, Raven, Diamond Head, obviously,
Yeah.
Angel, really early Saxon stuff.
Yeah. It's like I've listened to it, and what I've heard I love, but it's one of those things like there's only so much music. You can only deep dive so often into stuff. But
It's completely endless, yeah. I mean, compared to 10 or 15 years ago when it was a little more difficult, now it's just sensory overload all the time. It's hard to even keep up with just each week.
Yeah. I mean, even like I'll be 30 this year, but even when I was a teenager, uh, still go to FYE and pick up CDs and stuff.
Oh,
And I'd skip lunch to buy like a new CD or two, which I think was another reason why I gravitated towards heavier metal, because it wound up being cheaper usually than like the bigger metal bands.
yeah, like $20 on a copy of Saint Anger when you can buy like 3 or 4 other albums, right?
Right, exactly. Like, well, I could get the new Slipknot, or I could buy like Origin and I don't know, like Cannibal Corpse's Kill or something like that. But yeah, like, and you would just, I remember just sitting in my room with my little Walkman CD player and just wearing out the same few CDs for like a month or two and then buying a new one. Now, and I do the same thing. You'll listen in like a 15-minute car ride, you can listen to like however many different bands you want.
Exactly. I trust Spotify to just like blast me with stuff now. It knows me well enough.
Right. It's like I'll listen to Malignancy and Frank Zappa in the same car ride now, and it's awesome, but I could see a lot of people taking it for granted too.
Oh, totally, man. I mean, this morning I was flipping between like Integrity and this soul dude called Antoine Stanley. Like, it's too easy.
Integrity and who?
This soul singer called Antoine Stanley. He dropped a new album yesterday.
That's cool.
But yeah, I got to keep it nice and weird. Like, I tend not to just like stick on one genre for too long. Like, someone said something really cool on a podcast the other day that I like. What was it? It's like, rather than having a like lifelong pass to one genre, I prefer having like a guest pass to all of them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Uh, I I instantly just thought of your what was the 2 minutes to late night cover you did? Was it you were on Riff Raff, weren't you?
That was Riff Raff.
Yeah. You didn't wear the Angus Young uniform for the interview today?
I'm not sure I've even washed that shirt since. There hasn't been too much.
That's awesome. Which, I mean, I I love old school AC/DC. You know, I think I was influenced by my dad a little too much. Where love Bon Scott era, don't don't care too much about Brian Johnson era. I don't know.
The Bun stuff, but
Huh?
I still like the Brian stuff. I've seen AC/DC in a bunch of times, and I'd love to go and see them some more as soon as it's possible. It's always an amazing show.
Yeah.
Angus is well, like the way that he gets so much out of the same like five notes all night long, it's just ridiculous.
Right. Um, somebody asked a question real quick. The guitar tone on Torn Arteries is quite clean. What was your recording signal for that record?
You'd have to know.
I would say you weren't on that record, unfortunately, but
I think it was a combination of 5150s and Marshalls, from what I can tell. I know that Jeff put a picture of like one of those Line 6 old school Bean pods like up on the
really,
Facebook people, but I'm fairly sure they didn't use it.
I've heard crazier gear be used on records. You know, uh, like I've heard of people using like some kind of Engel Powerball or a Savage or whatever, some kind of Engel amp for rhythm tracks, and then using Pod Farm for leads. You know,
I believe it. I mean, like every Instagram video I've uploaded and all the sessions and recording I've done for the last 4 or 5 months have all been Pod Farm.
really, that's awesome. That was
Well,
my first Line 6 stuff. I think is most people's first foray into the digital world. But I had a Spider 3 half stack when I was 15. Oh yeah, dude, that got me through like all my high school shows and even a little bit after.
did,
Um,
did you ever take it off insane mode?
no. I mean, I think I used the clean channel a few times, you know. You got to.
No, I mean that's where it's at. Like, there's a jam night in my local town, and I was Line 6 Spider, just a couple of nights ago, doing exactly that same thing, like ripping some Pink Floyd on the insane setting for the solo, just because why not?
Right, exactly. Dude, there was one really cool setting. It was a Cliffs of Dover setting, uh,
Nice.
and there's no fuzz pedals in that amp, so it is just like the insane setting, but dialed in to sound like a fuzz face. It was super weird, but I fucking loved it.
That
You know,
sounds probably be very expensive to replicate otherwise.
yeah, exactly. Because trust me, I've tried. I don't know. I love Eric Johnson, man. Uh,
Yeah, so anybody who can just make that many different sounds just with their fingers, it's like the amplifier is really just doing that, like amplifying what the fingers and the wood are doing.
oh yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I'm still getting pop-ups from Discord and OBS. I'm trying to do away with.
Getting some love from my friend Nick for the Necrot shirt. Sick.
Oh, awesome, dude. That last album was so killer.
They're just an amazing band. Did you see them when they did their run of Exhumed in 2019?
Mm-mm. No, unfortunately, I haven't seen either of those bands live yet.
That's a real shame. I hope you get.
Wait, no, I have seen Exhumed. I'm sorry, I have. I forgot they opened up for Cannibal some years back here in West Virginia. But
Yeah.
oh, I need to see him again though because I wasn't as deep into them then as I am now. Like one of those situations. But
Their
yeah.
live, like Sebastian Phillips, who's playing lead guitar, he was in Noisem as well. Like,
Hmm.
beast, man. That current lineup is ridiculous.
I said I think Horror is probably my favorite album from them so far. You know, like
I'm sure Harvey would be stoked to hear that. I'm looking forward to the new one. They've done something pretty wild, and they're getting lots of ex-members to contribute songs to it.
Oh
Which
wow,
I think it's because they might have reached their 30th anniversary or something, which is kind of nuts.
that's cool. Damn. Yeah, that is crazy. Let me see. Got another question. What cables do you think are just beastly for taking touring abuse?
Oh man, I had some really nice gold tipped ones. Megami, I think I bought those, and I did really like them until one went missing one night, and then I just didn't have the heart to spend another $50 on replacing it.
Yeah,
But that thing, I used it probably for the best part of a year, and like no crackle, no signal loss, nothing. It was just really, really good.
awesome. I'm I've always just kind of gone for cheap stuff, like whatever was cheap at the local guitar store or you know Amazon stuff that had decent reviews.
Man,
Um,
probably got through like 100 Planet Waves cables in the time I've been playing guitar. I'm
yeah,
not too fussy about them. You know, as long as there's no audible crackle and it doesn't cut out, I'm pretty much good with it.
right,
Running it like gain amp, I don't. If anybody can tell the difference in tone, they got better ears than me.
exactly. Uh, I guess I need to mention at some point my new endorsement or whatever that I just got with thanks with WB Gear and they got one of the brands that they own is Bestronix cables. So I need to. They got SIT strings and Intune picks, which I'm ordering. Ordering a batch of from each. I need to get some cables too, though, like for here in my little studio and all that. But
Do you like
probably,
right?
hmm?
Do you like right angled or straight for cables?
I like right angled. For running my guitar into the start of my chain, I'll do like a right angled for the guitar input because
Hmm.
I would like tuck it in my guitar strap and everything. It's just real out of the way.
Yeah,
But that's only like on one end, and then the other end, everything else straight angle.
yeah, that makes sense. Trying to plug a right angle into the front of some like heads can be a little tricky.
Yeah, some of them it'll work. Some of them you just can't.
Yeah, I've definitely found that a bit too late sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Which here lately I've been playing more the HX Stomp, like the little Line 6 Helix modeler.
You like it? Lots of people seem to have them.
Dude, it's really handy for the size as it is. I've used it I've used it with my Mesa, um, kind of just for like patch changes, and then I've ran it into a power amp as just like my whole thing, you know.
Oh, nice. Okay. So it doesn't have a built-in power amp.
No, no, it doesn't. It's but you can if you're recording with it or you're doing DI, it's got power amp emulation.
Oh, sick.
Like every amp that you choose, you can either do just a preamp, amp and power amp, or you can do the full like amp and cabinet
Got
for
it.
so it's got cabs to pair for every amp type, or you can mix and match. You could have like take something that's traditionally a combo like a silver face and run it through like a Dietzel 4x12 or something if you want.
That's really nice. I like the sound of that a lot.
Yeah.
What I've been doing by recording recently, I was like, record direct computer, use the pod farm for the head part, but I'm using like wall of sound and just trying lots of different IRs for the cab part.
Right.
Having two different cabs in stereo stuff. It's a horrendous rabbit hole to fall in.
Oh yeah. It's fun, but it's one of those things. If you've got some free time and you're just having fun dialing stuff in, but if you're actually trying to sit down to get some writing done or whatever, like definitely want to make it two completely different sessions because you'll end up forgetting the riff idea you had or whatever, just deep diving through menus and crap.
I like triple tracking all of my rhythm parts when I'm recording stuff as well. So like,
Wow.
what I normally end up doing is like left side of the track, I'll get like the free passes all on different guitars. Then the right side, I'll get them while I'm in the zone. And before I know it, like my hands need a rest for a couple of days because I've been playing for 3 hours. Then we get into the deep diving with the tones and trying to like figure out cool blends and stuff.
Yeah, that's become more and more popular. I still haven't messed with it too much. Maybe I'm just impatient. I don't know. But
I actually copied a lot of my rationale for doing that kind of stuff from a melodic rock guitar player called Pete Lesperance. He has like he had a hair metal band in the 90s called Harem Scarum out of Canada who were not successful. But
that sounds really familiar. I don't know if somebody's like just made a parody or joke of that name or something, but
I would not be surprised. They're a very parodiable band. But
okay.
his killer, and what he likes to do is he'll have like two humbucker guitars on both sides, like a Les Paul or something, but he'll also have a Telecaster.
Hmm.
It'll be quite low gain just to add a little bit more kind of bite and high end. Then you can get all like the meat of the tone from the Les Paul or humbucker guitars.
Right.
So with Pounder, the original band I play with Harvey from Exhumed,
Yeah.
we're an old school metal thing, and we've just done a cover version of a Diamond Head song for a tribute album, and that's the first time I've tried doing like the four Les Pauls and the Telecasters as rhythms on a single track.
That's sick.
I think it sounds good so far. Like, I know when I sent it to our bass player Alejandro, who mixes everything, he was like, "Dude, 6 rhythm tracks. What?" I was like, "No, there's a reason. I think it will work."
From what I've heard of Pounder so far, it's pretty awesome, by the way.
It's cool because it's the first time Matt's ever tried to do melodic singing. Like after 25 or 30 now years of wrecking his voice with Exhumed. We're ambitious for him to be going for all this kind of like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest kind of stuff. I think we're pulling him down for going for the real like ball squeezing high notes now. Just get into more of a kind of range where he's comfortable.
It's awesome, man. Are you guys gonna go out on tour?
It totally depends on what's going on with the other bands because like Exhumed is always going to be his priority, and he's got Gruesome as well. Who
Oh yeah.
get a lot of dates, and obviously if Carcass are busy, I'll be hopefully back out doing stuff with them at some point.
Right. Need to just book one big super tour with all the bands, and everybody just keeps taking turns coming out and playing.
Do Pounder, Gruesome, Exhumed, and Carcass all on the same night. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah, that'd be great. Be awesome. You could have like between all of your all's pooled bands, you could just put on your own festival almost.
Well, I'm super bummed I didn't see Exhumed when they toured with Carcass. I think that was like 5 years ago. They did a US run together. Would have been really nice to see that.
Yeah, I whenever me and my wife got to see Carcass a few years ago, it was a pretty cool package. It was them with Crowbar, Ghoul,
Night Demon,
and yeah, Night Demon. Which
yeah,
I purposely never checked out Night Demon prior to that show. I
oh,
always I always do that with one band. I always like, okay, I don't know them, so I'm not gonna check them out. I want it to be a surprise, and it's normally pretty awesome surprise. I did that with Gate Creeper too. Whenever I went to go see Nails and Toxic Holocaust, Gate Creeper was the warm up band. I was like, I don't know them, and really just floored me. Like, have you checked them out?
Yeah, they were on that tour with Exhumed and Necrot in 2019. Judiciary and
That's awesome. What is it?
I think they played at the Decibel Metal and Beer Festival in 2019 as well. Gate. I've talked to Nate a little. I know he's not with the band anymore because he's concentrating on Spirit Adrift.
Yeah, which is also great.
Yeah, I love that band. They're amazing.
I love the dichotomy of flipping between death metal and like classic heavy metal. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that might be something I've kind of bonded with him over a little bit.
Right.
But I mean, like, I was much more of a classic heavy metal guy really until I moved to the States that was in 2014. And here in like doom and death metal is, it's the shit. The local that stuff, and immediately I kind of realized how great so many of the local bands were, and it really opened my eyes a lot. So when it got to the point where Bill asked if I'd be interested in trying out for Carcass, like maybe a couple of years before, I would have thought like, nah, that's ridiculous. That's too heavy for me. But definitely not by the time he did.
Right.
It's always like a Les Paul, so it hasn't been too much of a change going to like an EVH and a Les Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I've I've always kind of gravitated towards a lot of like Gibson and Fender style guitars, which is funny for a death metal page moderator.
Doesn't sound nearly. No.
Huh?
Doesn't sound like it's got enough spikes, like Gibsons and Fenders.
Right. But I mean, like you guys are a prime example. Um, it doesn't matter how many how many sharp angles your guitar has. It's like how you dial it in, how you play it, you know. But uh,
But bands I don't think Les Pauls would suit at all. Like I think there was a review of a Carcass show from a couple of years ago where it said like it sounds like Carcass, but it looks like they wandered into like a Led Zeppelin concert. Oh, sorry, I'm like
which I
just
mean, I don't even back in the day, like even like in the Napalm Death era, like Bill was playing like RG, like Ibanez stuff, which I mean, it's still not crazy extreme, you know?
yeah, totally like playing a Saber. I think you know
Okay, I wasn't sure which. I just remember old pictures of an Ibanez and some kind of 212 combo. I don't even remember what it was. I don't know.
choice even went into like those gear decisions early on, or whether it was literally that's what we can get.
Right, exactly.
Like
Kind of
when you
like,
think
hmm?
about how albums sound, like there's so much mythology around like how they got the guitar tones and stuff. I often think, well, it's probably just like, what they had in the studio.
Right, like uh, like the bass player using the like Sans amp, like GTR or whatever preamp, you know,
Yeah,
just like stuff that's not meant for what they're using it for, and then just making it work.
totally. Like I find it really interesting going into deep dives of like those 80s earache bands and stuff, and thinking about how they must have created those sounds. Like extreme noise terror, like that's not a guitar tone that anybody would probably choose, but it works.
Yeah, which I hear more and more lately. Um, maybe I just got burnt out on so many bands kind of going for the same tone. It's like, well, it works for so and so, so then they do it, and then the next band does because it worked for this, this person. That I just really appreciate unique guitar tones now. You know, like and honestly, I was getting kind of burnt out on the HM2
I was
thing.
wondering when that was going to come up. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
definitely
you cut out there. Definitely what?
there's definitely been a lot of the HM2 around like over the last couple of years. It is a great sound, but as soon as you hear it, you know what it is.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, like one thing I've really gotten into is bands that will use it just as like, or in the studio, they'll use like one track of guitar with HM2 blended into, their dry signal of like, whatever amp they're playing, like, Dietzel, Mace, whatever, like aborted. They're pretty good about doing that, or at least they have been on the last couple records. Like, um, I know Leon for doing Murder Construct.
Yeah.
Uh, I know he did like a ridiculous amount of guitar tracks, and he at least did like one or two per track or whatever with an HM2 blended in.
So what kind of settings do you think like Aborted and Leon are using on those? Do you think they're real wasp in the jar, super trebly thing?
Honestly, probably, and then just like making it kind of low in the mix, but it's like just enough to be there and add like a little bit of nastiness to a overall thick guitar tone.
I think that's a great idea. It sounds a little bit like what Bill did with Heartwork, where he'd blended in like his little like 1 or 2 watt Marshall practice amp into all of the other stuff, just for a little bit of extra high nastiness.
Yeah, I and you hear bands doing that too, using like a cheap little solid state, you know, sometimes even like one of those little pig nose amps or something.
Yeah, whatever makes it sound cool. And you know, and like you said, like if a band can actually get their own identifiable guitar sound, like there's a nearly infinite number of bands anyway worth going.
Kind of cut out there. There's an infinite number of bands. What?
I'm just saying that there's an infinite number of bands out there, all playing metal. If you've got anything you can do that'll make your sound stand out and be more identifiable and still serve the songs, it's worth going for.
Absolutely. Let me see here. Trying to go back to my little questionnaire thingy.
Sure.
We kind of, well, the next thing was like tone inspiration, but we've kind of been talking that for like 20 minutes now, I think.
I'm a big fan of lower mids. It's something I've talked a lot about, and it's something I think you find a lot more in like hard and classic rock than necessarily in metal. You know, like Carcass are like the opposite of a scoop band when it comes to dialing in the EQ. We'll go like 6.5 on the bass, middle, and treble, and the gain between like depending on how toasted the tubes are.
Right. Which is pretty refreshing. Like, I mean, I love, you know, like the 90s, like Deicide records, you know, super scooped, high gain stuff. But um, like I said, I'm as big a proponent of like 70s and 80s, like rock stuff and early metal stuff too. So I don't know. It's all cool.
It is really, and I think all of it. It all depends a lot on what the actual style of your playing as well, like your picking and the amount of pressure you apply to the guitar when the aggression. You know, like I pick incredibly hard. Like one of our techs has said, like I really should pick less hard because then he'd have to spend less time like retuning my guitars. But if I was like just like feather touching the strings, it would be a completely different sound. I'd probably have to dial in the amp differently.
Oh yeah, and you know, of course, it always depends on what kind of music are you writing to. You know,
Yeah.
like like I love really thick wall of sounding amps, like a lot of Orange or you know, like a Sun Model T or something like that. That just sounds super thick as hell. Just a really big full sound. But would I use those if I was doing like a tech death band? Maybe not, you know. And I wouldn't use something. I would feel like I was committing some sort of atrocity if I used a modeler for a doom band, you know?
Oh yeah, like if you're not making people's guts vibrate, you're doing it wrong.
Exactly. Like sometimes you just gotta like play the part with your gear too. You're like, I don't know. Sometimes.
Oh, so, no, you're completely right. Like sometimes like the gig calls for a certain kind of amp. Like when I was in Angel Witch, it was obvious that like we were going to use JCM 800s or
Yeah.
like these or something old, cranked up, super loud.
Yeah.
Although I was saying that, the very first gig I did, I think I ended up having to use a PV Triple X. That was the only amp available, and that was not
Those are
what
cool.
it was cool. It's not necessarily the right amp for Angel Witch. I think I had to have the gain on like.
No. It's it definitely would be a little, it probably raise a couple eyebrows like, huh, didn't expect that. Like,
Yeah, like the hair, body, and leg settings. It's like, yeah, if I was playing like a Steel Panther shot or something, this might be more appropriate.
exactly. That's awesome. Uh, kind of on that note, you said you're using the Kemper for, you know, at home and stuff like that. Is there a particular reason that you like don't bring that along with you for Carcass? Like
I think Jeff would fire me. Yeah,
oh, okay.
the guys are not fans of campers. I think they've their perception of it. So I think they said they were aware of bands who've like used them on stage and had a quiet stage, you know, and so like in-ears, no wedges, a Kemper, like
Right.
that's not their style at all. And honestly, I've seen bands where I don't think it's the right choice as well. Like I think Creator and Devin Townsend are two that come to mind. I saw them at shows in San Francisco where I was kind of near the front of the crowd in the middle, and I just couldn't hear shit apart from the drums
Oh,
because of the volume coming from any of the guitars. They're all coming out through the main PA system.
that's interesting because,
I mean,
well,
sound desk, I'm sure it would sound amazing. But
Right.
I feel like if you haven't got that stage volume coming off, you're not doing a very nice thing to people who've like waited the longest to be at the front.
Hmm. That surprises me with Devin because I even feel like I've seen, which I'm sure, night to night, it might be a different situation kind of thing, or even from one tour to another. But
Yeah,
I swear I thought I've seen like a gear rundown thing with him before where he's using a Kemper or an Axe Effect, sometimes both, sometimes in conjunction with a tube amp. I think he's one of those guys. He's constantly changing stuff, but where he is running some kind of modeler for like a DI situation, but he's still running at least a power amp to have stage volume and like kind of what I'm doing with like the HX Stomp. Like I'll never go full DI ever. Um, the idea of only having like a stage monitor kind of terrifies me. You know what I mean?
it's a bad idea. Don't ever do it. I've tried it with the Kemper, like with some other bands, and it really sucks. Like, some of your monitor goes out, you can't hit anything.
Yeah.
Gone.
But like, uh, I kind of like the idea of using some sort of modeler with a power amp and cab for your own reference. Um, but also because all of them are so sophisticated now, you can typically run two signals. You can have like your stage volume running a cab, but then you can also run a DI to front of house as well.
That's
So
exactly what I do for Pounder.
really, that's sick.
Give the guy a stereo out because I take a lot of really long guitar solos with lots and lots of like ping pong delay and stupid shit.
Mm-hmm.
Guy gets I get stereo outs at line level, and I just keep the amp at a nice level where I can hear it on. And that still means that anyone who's made the unfortunate decision of standing right in front of me gets their ears blown out.
That's all.
You've got to have air moving. That's the thing for me. Like, I don't think unless I was told like you can't do the gig unless you do this, like for in ears, it's really not for me. I much prefer things being loud. I wear earplugs so I don't go deaf, but it's just a
Yeah.
different.
Um, which I've always tried to invest in earplugs. I got some really nice ones now that they don't cut out as many frequencies.
Oh, that's
Yeah, yeah. And they were just like $30 off Amazon too.
nice.
But
I had tinnitus when I was 14, so I've been dealing with that for 25 years now. And yeah, the custom molded
nice.
at like 27 dB. And these ones glow in the dark as well, which is great when I headbang too much and they fall out on stage because then I can
Oh
find them.
yeah, that's smart.
It's years of trial and error. Like, I think the very first time I went to a show with earplugs in, I'd lost both of them, and I was like, "Fuck!" Like, okay, we're gonna have to be a little bit more careful with these.
Right. Um, I've have you ever played with in-ear monitors?
Only in rehearsals for a band that never got out of the rehearsal room, and I couldn't stand. The problem with my tinnitus was as well, like I had to run the in-ear monitor so loud to hear my guitar above the drums that I was just aggravating the hearing problems. Like the ringing got worse. So then I was in this weird situation where I was wearing my earplugs and then wearing big cans over the top. And I was like, this is really stupid. We should just be playing out loud. I
Yeah.
don't, yeah. But that was a band that wanted to do a lot of like, like MIDI switching and stuff. And they had everything fixed up to a laptop that was going to trigger all the patch changes.
Yeah.
Mentally exhausting. We hadn't even played a show yet. And yeah, it was ambitious and stupid. And I was glad to not do it anymore.
I mean, for some people, if that's what they want to do, and they can fit their entire band in one rack case, and have a laptop do everything for them, and they play to in ears, and they're happy with that. More power to them.
They wanted to use loads of backing tracks and they wanted to sync it up to video. So in that sense, it was the only real way of doing it. Like, I would
Yeah.
say shoestring budget. It wasn't to get all the gear set up originally, but then at least you could show up to a gig with all your stuff and do it without needing to.
Yeah. True. I mean, I understand all the benefits, and it's cool and all, but I don't know. I've played with in-ear monitors before for a couple gigs, um, and it was I don't know. It just really took me out of it. I did not like it at all. And it was more of like a jammy kind of thing. I was doing a lot of improv, and I don't know. Because a lot of like with improv, like whenever you're trying to improvise live and stuff, you're kind of you kind of have to get it in the moment
Right.
and let that kind of dictate where you're going. And I felt like I was just practicing in my bedroom. You know, you just feel too isolated. It's a
Were
weird feeling. I don't know.
were you able to dial in your own mix?
Uh, Kind of, sort of. I mean, so, and here's another thing I didn't like. I didn't have like a pack or anything. They had a little, like one of those little mixers on a stand that just had to be right beside me.
Yeah, that's different.
So I was also tethered to this thing, and I really hated that. Maybe if I had a little more freedom, it would have, like, the whole thing just made me, like, I was just annoyed the whole time.
It doesn't sound like a good time, no.
If I had the pack and had some freedom, you know, that's one thing. But I don't know, if I ever did again, maybe I would just like maybe just one ear and keep the other one open so I could still kind of hear what was going on. And
Hmm.
I don't know,
I could,
like I've heard of some people doing that, like or at least singers will. That's awesome. I'll at least hear about like singers. They'll have only one in-ear monitor and have the other one out so they can kind of feed off the crowd and, you know, interact with people and all that. And I totally get that. It sounds silly, but having done it, I get it now.
totally. I mean, I'm sure I've seen big bands who've had like, like crowd mics facing the crowd just to mix into their in-ear mixes before, to try and
Really?
be less sterile, you know,
Huh.
that kind of level, I guess, you know, it probably makes sense. You actually have the resources to do that kind of thing and have like an actual like monitor engineer taking care of everyone.
That's the other thing. There's a there's a drummer I've been jamming with here lately, and we've talked about, you know, just having a discussion about in-ear monitors and all that. I'm like, personally, I would not want to deal with the headache at a local level band. You know, like, I don't know. We were talking about a lot of potential stage kind of setups. Everything from, like, you know, big drum rack kits to bringing your own mics, using like 11 to 12 to 15 mics on your just your drum kit for a live show for a local band. I'm like, every sound guy will hate your guts, and
Oh,
they probably just tell you no.
yeah. So you get an overhead, you get a kick drum, you get a snap. Like, good luck. Comes if you like.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, I'll say, like, typically a lot of, if you're even, which, first off, if we're even playing a place that has, you know, a sound system, you know, not somebody's living room or a VFW hall. Um, if we're actually playing like a club that has like a decent sound, they'll have the mics already out on stage and set up that they want anyone to use.
Right.
You know, so you'll probably get an overhead or two, snare and kick, and that's. I mean, you'll hear it all fine. The only reason anybody uses more typically is, I don't know, trying to get more of like that studio kind of sound where everything comes completely crystal clear through and you can really tweak everything. But without a hired sound guy that you tour with that knows what you're going for, why would you try? Like,
Exactly, man. I mean, there's so many funny memories of being at like local shows here in Oakland, like where a guy brings a 100-watt head to a room that can hold like 70 people, and the sound man comes on his iPad like showing me the mix, and he says to me, "Guitar's pretty loud, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty loud." And he just pulls down the whole guitar thing on his iPad, and it's still like louder than the drums. I was like,
so
"I really need to be here." It's like, oh, what the best sound, I guess, is making sure your stage volume's pretty low, or at least low enough to the point where you're giving the sound man some control in small venues. That's why I'd rather use a low wattage amp, like take a 15 watt or something, or even use the Kemper. Stage volume that I can hear, and then just let the sound guy take care of it up front.
yeah, absolutely.
Hope that it's not some burned out guy who's like ears are gone and doesn't give a shit, which does happen sometimes.
Or they're constantly changing the levels as the set goes on.
Yeah.
And it's like, interesting. I remember being a lot louder at the beginning of the set. It's,
Your guitar player is quieter by the end than you were at the beginning. You're a very rare breed. Something strange has happened.
the constant war between the guitar player who keeps going back and raising his volume up, and the sound guy keeps turning him down.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a million memes about it.
Oh, dude, that band memes Instagram account was one of my favorite things that happened last year. Like every
So
single.
good. Awesome. Well, back to you a little bit. Who would you say actually kind of got you started playing? Like who really made you want to pick up in the first place?
Noel Gallagher from Oasis.
Really? Wow.
When I was like 14, I was real like it was in the mid 90s in England, and Britpop was like it was the biggest thing that was happening. So when I was like a 14-year-old kid, you had like Blur and Oasis. They were like
Okay.
the bands who were having a battle, and I already knew how to play a little bit of piano.
Hmm.
And watching Oasis videos like on TV, I noticed that the rhythm guitar was just doing this one bar chord shape and moving up and down the neck. Like he wasn't doing anything else. And they just played like some of the biggest shows. They played at Nebworth to like 250,000 people over a weekend. So I thought, I could play to that many people by only learning one chord. I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
after about a month, I could do that. And I started learning the guitar solos. Oasis guitar solos, they're very simple. They're not very difficult. They're all in the pentatonic scale. So that taught me how
Hmm.
to like run up and down those. Then I started getting into bands with better guitar players. It was Manic Street Preachers were really big for me. They're a band that were huge in England but never broke in the States. They had really cool guitar solos on their early albums. Then I think it was Metallica and Guns N' Roses and Iron Maiden, and then that was that.
Yeah, that was all she wrote after that.
Yeah, then I wanted to learn started learning every solo on the Black Album, then tried to learn every solo on Puppets and like Kill 'Em All. Started learning Iron Maiden songs. Then kind of got detoured into 70s rock and stoner rock really heavily for about 10 or 15 years. Never really came out of that. Tried to learn lots. I can play a lot of Pink Floyd songs, Rainbow
Hmm.
songs. A really formative thing for me was playing in a cover band in London for the whole of my 20s, like every Sunday night, where we had a set list that was about 150 songs long, but we never had. We played for between 3 and 5 hours every Sunday night in Camden Town.
Huh.
Like, that was probably the biggest part of my musical education, was just learning how to play that many songs, knowing all the rhythm parts, all the solos, if there were harmonies, like knowing the upper and lower parts, in case whoever was playing the other guitar that night only knew one of the parts.
Right.
And then being ready to deal with like everything that can go wrong going wrong, like a drunk guy just like falling into the cab and knocking it over on your pedals, or like someone
Yeah.
coming up and play the song in a different key to what you're used to.
That's why that's another reason why I've never invested in like the full Helix floorboard or like quad Cortex. It's like I'm not putting $1,500 on the floor. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I've seen some terrible things happen to gear, like
Yeah.
especially in a atmosphere like that, where you're playing like when you're playing a classic rock set list of stuff like Ace of Spades into Number of the Beast into like Seek and Destroy or something, like shit's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Oh yeah.
Small bar full of excited drunk people,
Oh yeah.
having to learn all those different songs by all those different players, like just it's been my entire approach to the guitar all along, really, learning other people's music and then figuring out what the best bits to steal are to kind of make into a weird Frankenstein style of my own. I think that's what a lot of people do.
Yeah. I mean that was pretty much I know it was for me anyway, Like the first few years you're just learning covers and trying to figure out and failing Zach Wild solos and
I've been there, yeah. I got Ian Les Paul because I thought that's how you did pinch harmonics
it's awesome.
when I was about 18, yeah. And I quickly realized, oh no, it's actually the fingers.
Yeah. Um, that was a big one for me early on. I figured out some Ozzy era sax solos, but I don't know. The later he got, the little trickier it became. But
Yeah, I can't pick that first, and I don't think I'm ever going to.
like I've gotten close enough to satiate me, I think. You know what I mean? Like honestly, this past year has been great for like my practice regiment because it basically went non-existent for a while. And then like some guys on YouTube, some different technique, bits of technique advice. And I was like, yeah, I got more time. It's a little bit more time at home.
Which
So
guys have you been checking out? Like Ben Eller?
definitely Ben Eller. Then also, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Bernd. Um,
Yeah.
he's an Austrian guitar player. He's toured with a bunch of people, including like Belfagor. Um,
Oh
he,
wait, yeah.
okay. Skinny guy, some tattoos, real long dreadlocks.
Yeah.
He's got some great stuff. He's got some typically either technique or theory videos. His technique stuff has helped a lot. The theory videos are just like some cool alternate ideas for, soloing and stuff like that. Like kind of advising people to utilize the circle of fifths for, to try to figure out how to quickly figure out a way to improvise in different keys that they're not used to playing in, you know, stuff like that, which I've always said the same thing too. Like, because, and probably a lot of my following will laugh at this, but like, playing like Sunday morning church gigs or something where everything's in like G major. And it's like, okay, E minor, like, stuff like that.
So what you're doing, like starting your solos like in a like D major position, but just trying to make sure you hit notes that are still mostly G.
Pretty much.
I'm trying to get better with that stuff. Well, I've watched a shameful amount of Rick Beato videos and
Yeah.
things.
Well, it's just like if they're playing in G major, the relative minor is E minor, so you can basically just play everything as if you were doing an E minor solo. You know what I mean? And it still works. All the notes fall in the same places. So it's just like whenever I was in college, we just kind of referred to the circle of fifths as like the ultimate cheat sheet. You know, I actually had a buddy who had the circle of fifths tattooed on his forearm.
Ultimate cheat sheet. That's amazing.
Yes, and that's exactly why he got it. And his was like kind of artful too. I mean, it looked cool, but we just laughed. He's like, yeah, like teachers can't ever, or professors can never say anything to him. I was like, what am I gonna do?
That's so cool. I have nothing but respect for your friend who did that.
Right?
Blew my mind. Blew my mind. And it was a circle of fourths when you do it as well. I was like, wow, that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the YouTube is amazing. I've been watching some Tom Quayle videos, trying to learn how to do like basic jazz stuff, just to learn some new chords. Nowhere near the lead yet, but I like that are new and different on the guitar as well as shredding.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was a jazz major in college. I only went for a year. Um, but yeah, I was actually going there for that, and I still suck at jazz.
I got a few friends who are really good at it, and they say things to me that make it sound so simple, but I know they're missing out a lot of detail.
It's one of those things you've got to put years and years into it. And like, I mean, people try to look for quick, shortcuts and stuff, and unless like you need to start off early with that and get it ingrained and make it second nature early on. Um, like I don't know. I try to make myself a little better each year in some way.
Yeah.
Um, those gigs where you're improvising an awful lot, like you'll get a chord chart like the day before the gig, and you have to show up and it's like, okay, well, I know how to play the root fifth and octave, so I can always do that for chords, and then I'll just solo when I have to, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like at least a quarter at a time, you'll probably be playing the right note.
Right. Exactly. Sometimes I'll get fancy and I'll work in some triads and like higher registers and stuff like that. But most of the time you're just going off, off the cuff, off the top of your head. So you don't really have time to, for me, I don't have time to sit there and think, all right, this is here, here, and here. It's like, because then you've already missed it.
Exactly. I think, like you said, you got to do it for years and make it second nature. I think I've always thought of like playing different styles of guitar as like learning different languages.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like running scales up and down is like just like saying the alphabet out loud. It's not the same thing as like knowing how to say something, and that's what takes a really, really, really long time.
Absolutely. And as guitar players, we have a habit of kind of memorizing things in like shapes as opposed to what it's actually like A sharp, B's, whatever.
I totally up and down the pentatonic scale like that.
Right.
Then occasionally, is this actually good? Like, am I actually playing something anyone wants to listen to, or am I just moving my fingers where I know they're allowed to go?
Yeah.
That's a really cool thing about being hired for a gig like Carcass, because it's like a Michael Amott solo, like, is not something where you run your fingers around randomly. It's like, no, there is a tune, and if you don't play it, people will notice. Like, you have to play attention and try and make it sound lyrical, which is a cool thing to do in a death metal context, because, a lot of bands don't have that kind of lead playing. Like, like Integrity have got some of that Pestilence used to have some quite a lot on some of the 90s stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been my favorite kind of rock music, is where there is that kind of like, dude with hair standing on top of a mountain, like hair blowing through in the wind, like playing some ridiculous solo. It's like, certainly from the there's a fair amount of that in Carcass.
That's cool you brought up Michael, because I feel like no one ever really gave him enough credit for his contributions in Carcass.
Well, I dare anyone to imagine Buried Dreams without his solo, or like
Right.
without his solo. Like, he wrote Incarnate Solvent Abuse, like the whole song apart from the breakdown after his solo.
Yeah.
Like, huge parts of the Carcass catalogue. He was actually the first thing to do with Carcass that I ever heard. There was a friend at university played me a Spiritual Beggars album, and I was like, there's a lead guitarist on this. He's amazing. And then he was like, oh yeah, he plays in these death metal bands like Arch Enemy, and he used to be in Carcass, and that was kind of my way in.
I was a big Michael Amott fan back in high school. Originally, it was because of Arch Enemy. I really dug like the early albums up to like Doomsday Machine.
Same, yeah.
Yeah. After that, I think I kind of lost track of the band a bit, but like those first few albums are amazing, even all the way back to when they had Johan singing.
Oh, definitely. And like tunes like Silverwing, like I still listen to.
And through that, I always have this tendency, if I like a band enough or like a guitar player enough, like I got to check out all of his other projects. Like, well, pretty much how I done like with you with check out Angel Witch and Pounder and stuff like that.
Oh, thanks. I hope you've enjoyed some of it.
Absolutely. And that's what I did with Michael. That's how I discovered Carcass, which is probably backwards for most people, but sorry, I was born in 91. I mean, what do you want?
I was born in 82, and it's a similar thing. Like, Carcass had already split up long before I ever knew who they were.
Right. But like, yeah, and Spiritual Beggars, I think Spiritual Beggars and Clutch I discovered around the same time, and that was how I kind of discovered like stoner rock or whatever you want to call it. Which, that's another subgenre that I absolutely love.
Kaya were the other two massive ones for me, and the British Hangnail as well. I don't know if you ever heard them, but they managed to get one of the records out.
Who was it?
Hangnail, they're called.
Hangnail?
Yeah, the guy who sang for them just became the new Orange Goblin bass player.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of really good stuff there. I just feel like that genre kind of jumped the shark a little bit after a while. Like, it got beyond the point of being inventive anymore because there was just so much of it,
Yeah.
I have friends who love it. Like there's one of my friends keeps every time King Buffalo releases anything, he like sends it to me and makes me listen to it. And those guys have got some really cool stuff happening.
That's funny you mentioned Orange Goblin because I was just thinking about them too.
Yeah.
I got to see Clutch. I've only seen Clutch one time. It was like them, Orange Goblin, Lion Eyes, and like a handful of other bands. But Orange Goblin, God, they're so good live.
They're a very good live band. In the 2000s, I was in a like classic metal style like unsigned band that never got anywhere, but we got to open for Orange Goblin a couple of times. And that was back. They still do, but back in the day, they used to get like 2 bottles of the Jägermeister on their rider for every show, like one of those orange polystyrene bricks full of test tubes, like the full Jägermeister package.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to drink out of the test tubes. I think it mostly just came out of the bottle. Yeah, some of those nights were very, very messy indeed.
That's awesome, though. So it is kind of interesting. Like when you have a smaller band, you kind of set a benchmark for yourself based off of who's the biggest band that you got to open for, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, and it was those guys for a long time. It might have even been by the. Oh, we opened for Angel Witch once actually. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
They're probably on a similar sort of level to Orange Goblin, maybe. I don't know.
Um, you'll probably get a kick out of the two biggest bands my old band got to open for. We got to go on a show that was headlined by Static X and Prong.
Wow.
I actually got to hang out with Tommy Victor a little bit at our merch table. Like, really nice guy. He traded me a Prong hat for one of our hats. So,
good deal.
yeah, exactly. Super nice guy. And Static X was actually pretty cool live. I'm not gonna lie.
Never seen them.
Yeah. Well, then that was when the singer was still alive too, obviously. But
I guess they probably don't still play them. I don't know anything about Static X. I'm not going to pretend I do.
well, they're they're in a weird place now. The band is touring with a guy who's, I'm sure you've seen their original singer Wayne, where he has like the crazy hair and stuff.
Seen pictures, yeah, definitely.
Since he passed, I guess it was the anniversary of their first album. The rest of the band got back together, and they've got a guy now who is wearing what looks like a dead skin mask, and he's got the the blowout haircut. Maybe it's part of the mask. I don't know. And he sounds a lot like Wayne, and he's playing Wayne's guitars, and he's wearing like a weird Wayne dead skin mask. I thought it was in really poor taste myself.
Presumably, to signed off on it, I guess it must be okay. I don't know.
I don't
Pretty
know.
well.
Yeah, somebody just mentioned. A lot of people were saying it was like the singer of another new metal band, Dope. I don't know. I don't know.
I skipped new metal completely. When it happened, I was at a time in my guitar playing where I just wanted to like play like Slash, and new metal was like the opposite of that music wise. No solos. And
New metal, huh?
I never really got into any new metal bands after the fact as well. Never gonna happen.
When I was first getting into heavier music, new metal bands were kind of like the established bands, like early 2000s or whatever. Then I kind of went through a phase where I just, realized it is cheesy. I mean, we won't pretend it's super cheesy. But I don't know. There's a couple of them that maybe it's out of nostalgia that I'll go back and I'll listen to here and there. Like, I don't know.
I'm never going to skip Down with the Sickness, but I'll never put it on by choice either.
Maybe not that one. There's a lot of them like the old Mudvayne stuff. I still think is pretty cool, and Ryan Martini's a hell of a bass player.
I think there are a lot of good bass players. You can say that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Um, Limp Bizkit is basically like a parody band, but their bass player is actually really, really good. I something was on. People are typing in Limp Bizkit lyrics in the chat now. That's my buddy Rob from Arachnid Cabinets. um, but yeah, there was a song on Sirius, and it was one of their tracks that had like a lot of bass in the verse. That's kind of a new metal thing, I think. A little formulaic where fucking like for the verses, the band just kind of drops out a little bit, and it's like a I guess it's trying to emulate sort of like a hip hop beat or something,
Yeah,
like a West Coast kind of hip hop thing where it's like mostly like a really cool kind of bass line, pretty minimalist, like kind of drums or whatever. Then for the chorus, they come back in with the big heavy part or whatever. It
yeah.
gets a little monotonous, honestly, but
It's a formula and it worked.
which I mean, I guess every subgenre kind of falls into their formulas. Like I think there's plenty of like '80s hair metal formulas too that are
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, even in like the new wave of traditional heavy metal, like all the new bands who are like ripping off Maiden and Priest and Manowar and stuff. Like sometimes you can kind of tell what the whole song is going to sound like after about 10 seconds.
yeah.
It happens with some Pounder songs, but we do try and get around that a little bit by mixing in some other stuff. But if you listen to enough of any genre, I think you start to notice the patterns.
I mean, I had an old thrash band, so it was basically like if Ant it like if Anthrax got guitar lessons is what somebody said. Because we would do like really really fast kind of shreddy Megadeth parts,
Nice.
but for the most part it was very like hardcore or punk influenced thrash, just
Mm,
with fancier guitar stuff.
why not?
Yeah. So needless to say, it did get pretty formulaic at times, but that's I don't know. It's fun. So whatever.
Exactly. I don't. It doesn't matter if something's formulaic. I mean, AC/DC, the best example of that. They probably
Yeah.
have like kinds of songs they've done in the whole 40 years, and nobody minds. I think that the
Exactly.
main thing is that you do it from the heart and you do it because you believe in it and you believe in yourself. You can't try to please other people. If other people like it, that's great, but it's not something anyone has control over.
And sometimes it's just about, it's not so much that you are playing three or four chords, it's how you play them. You know,
Exactly.
take like the Ramones or AC/DC. You know, it's not if you're just sitting there and like kind of casually just strumming up and down real quick, or are you like really aggressively like down picking and like putting some actual effort and muscle into what you're playing, play with some attitude. It's
I'm just
completely different.
you saying that's just making me imagine like Doyle from the Misfits. It's like the ultimate.
Yes, exactly.
Just
Like,
like seeing this supernatural thing, like something that doesn't exist in nature. You're like, what the fuck is this? Like, because you write out the tab,
yeah,
there's not, but you can't take your eyes off him, and it sounds amazing.
yeah, absolutely. Um, it. I think it's kind of a factor that a lot of bands completely miss. You know, but ever notice the Ramones didn't want to do a lot of things?
I wanted to be sedated.
Huh?
I wanted to be sedated.
Yeah, that is one thing. They had maybe that's all they wanted. I guess if they did want to be sedated and got sedated, then they really wouldn't have much interest in many other things, would they?
Exactly, it would stop them doing anything else. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
smart.
It's awesome. Uh, let's see here. What hang on, let me check what time it is anyway. Okay. Yeah, we got plenty of time. I hope I'm not holding you up for nothing.
My calendar's wide open, man.
Sweet. All right, next let's talk about like musical goals, like both for you personally and things that you guys have planned for Carcass that you're trying to do whenever the world opens back up, that is.
Let's see. I mean, I don't entirely know what the guys are planning. I'm you know, Dan and Bill and Jeff are the three members of the band. Like, I'm not privy to all of the discussions they have. Like, quite often I'll find out we're doing a gig because my mum will send me a screenshot of the Carcass Facebook page going, look, you're playing Hell. I'll be like, wow, cool.
Huh.
But I think Jeff figured out pretty early on that I was never going to say no to a show that I was able to get to. So it's like, well, I'm not going to check and do it, or if you want to, because I'm just going to assume that you will.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, they're definitely going to want shit out of this album as soon as they can. I know that there's a European tour with Behemoth, which is supposed to be starting in September, and I don't know if it will. They don't know if it will. I mean, it'd be cool if it, but you know, COVID is still such a mess, and the US seems a lot more permissive about letting stuff happen right now.
Yeah, definitely.
As you know, it's really difficult for non-US citizens to be able to work in the States. I think there's going to be a gigantic backlog for any British artists who want to come over here to play. So I know that they just announced for MDF in May next year.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone will all be able to get our shit together in time for that. I know they're booked for Health, which will be amazing. Probably going on at the same time as Metallica, which will be interesting.
Wow.
Hopefully Metallica plays a really stinky set full of, like, you know, post-Justice songs and everyone comes to watch Carcass instead. But since awesome. I've been to like 20 Metallica shows, the idea of even playing on the same day as them, never mind at the same time, slightly terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a hard act to follow / compete with. I can't believe that they would actually try to overlay. Well, no, I guess I can believe that. Festivals can be kind of a mess schedule-wise sometimes.
They've got about 10 stages at Hellfest. I think last time we were supposed to be on at the same time as Manowar, but they ended up pulling out the night before, so we ended up being on at the same time as Sabaton, I think, which was a little different. But yeah, I mean, it's a big site, and we played inside this giant like aircraft hangar kind of thing, which was pretty well self-contained. There were two right next to each other, actually. I think I noticed at one point I looked to my left and I could see like King Diamond and just walking on stage while we were still playing. I was like, oh, fuck, like, that'd be a hard choice. Do I stay watching Carcass or do I go and watch King Diamond?
Everybody just kind of looks over, like when you're supposed to be taking a solo and you're just gone. You're over in the crowd at King Diamond.
Where did he go? Yeah. I was like, always watching it.
God, that'd be awesome.
Going back to your question, like, the band will try and tour a lot. I don't know if they'll try and make it like 7 years of touring like they did for Surgical Steel. Like, that was too long. And I don't know why it took as long as it did. I think it just took them a really long time to knuckle down and start writing.
Gotcha.
They had a player in the band who was like going to be completely removed from the writing process. It meant they could really focus on just like the core. Dan and Bill writing the music, and then once the riffs are written, going to Jeff to kind of like hack it all up, rearrange it, get the vocals in, and make an album. Yeah, Bill recorded all the guitars on Surgical Steel, so it's not a huge leap really for him to do it again.
Yeah.
As a Carcass fan, it's what I want to hear. I wish there was more of Bill's guitar playing on record. I've spent so many hours just like jamming with him, you know, in dressing rooms before shows or at rehearsals, and I feel like most people still probably don't know how good he actually is. Even when he plays electric guitar not plugged in, like the sound fills the room. Like he just picks the notes and like bends them with such perfection. It's sickening. But it's really inspiring. It gives me something massive to shoot for. Like, my musical goal is to, you know, be good enough to be on a level and perform next to him without looking like an obvious drop in quality right now. And it's taken more than I ever have imagined to do that. Like, the month I had 2 weeks when he first asked me to try out to learn as many songs as I could and go to an audition, like fly over for it. And then the month after that, for the first show, was like the most intense 6 weeks of my life. I was like shedding 5 or 6 hours a day because I'd never tried picking that first. I'd never really played much thrash or any death metal before.
Wow.
Nothing to that in 6 weeks was fucking intense. I wouldn't recommend it on anyone. I'd try and do it over a longer amount of time.
Right. Hey, you got to do what you got to do. I mean,
yeah, I was like, well, you know, I listened to a lot of podcasts, like musicians just talking shit, and something a lot of them, especially hired gun guys, say is that, you know, unless there's a really good reason not to, you should always say yes first, even if you don't think you can do it, and then just try your best.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I believe that.
never think it's actually going to be beyond you or too difficult. It's amazing what you can be capable of when you're really up against it, especially if the prize is like playing a show with Carcass. Like, there's no option. Had to get it right.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially for session guys, like you don't really have uh, you don't have the luxury of saying, oh, I don't know, maybe. Like you take what you can get and you figure out how to make it work later. That's really the only way to.
Totally. I mean, for full disclosure, I'm not a session guy. Like, my job is I'm a logistics analyst for a website that sells furniture. I've got a really chill boss
Nice.
who just most of my time in Microsoft Excel, but I got a really chill boss who was like a deadhead. You know, he followed the dead around a lot when he was younger, and he's just quite happy to have a band guy on the team. He just doesn't pay me when I have to go away for touring and stuff.
That's
Yeah,
sick.
I'd love for music to be a bigger part of my income going forward, definitely. Whether it's as a full member of a band, a touring member of a band. I'm even wondering if, like, in a couple of years' time, like when I don't have as much lovely hair to rely on, like maybe I'll like go and try and get a gig or something, you know, playing in a show there, just because it would be playing guitar every night. And that's what I really want.
That'd be great. Uh, do you have any do you have any musical goals as far as just bring it down to you and your own playing, like personally?
Oh yeah, definitely. At one point, I want to get the song I've got on Spotify over 100 plays. The stuff that I find myself naturally writing at the moment is very chilled. Like, I've been, especially over the course of the pandemic, I've been listening to a lot of funk and jazz and unholy amounts of Steely Dan. So I'm playing a lot of like lower gain stuff, lots of nice minor and major chords with sevenths in them, and just working on really like melodic, tasteful guitar playing. And there's a very limited like audience for that kind of thing. Obviously, like the stuff I'm doing probably falls somewhere between like David Gilmour, Santana, and Larry Carlton. At least it does in my head. People who know those guitarists very well might disagree. That's what I'm aiming for, definitely, for it to sound not abhorrently worse than those guys do. But yeah, I don't know what that means in terms of anyone else. But I've recorded a couple of tunes, and I've like asked friends to drop keyboards and bass on them to make it feel like a bit more of a collaboration. We're
Awesome.
another Pounder album as well, and I always record all the guitars on those. So that's the main shop window for my guitar playing, I guess. Like, Matt Harvey writes most of the material, but I do all the solos and I record all of the parts. So like, even though I don't have any creative stake in Carcass whatsoever, I get to do a lot, you know, with Pounder, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to get stuff. I'm just bad at producing at home. I'm not a producer, and I feel like I can only get my home stuff to a certain level, and it just does not sound pro to me, and I'm not sure how to get it to the next level.
I I've been there. It's a pain. Honestly, I lose patience for it after a while too. But
That's the thing, man. I don't want to just keep spending money on gear, because I don't think that's it. Like, I've listened to really good albums recorded on GarageBand before, like just with a DI and just using their brains and spending a lot of time.
no, absolutely. I know he's kind of a wackadoo, but like Kanye West, like his first big breakthrough album was done in GarageBand, you know, and dude's got more money than we even would know what to do with. So
Totally, man. I mean, like the main drum beat in Umbrella by Rihanna is one of the default loops that comes with Logic. Or might even be
huh.
GarageBand. Like, you know, like the tools are there. It's just, you know, some people know how to use them better than others, I guess. I feel like I'm quite good at guitar parts. I have like a power trio band I'm doing here in the Bay Area with some friends as well, which is very rough and ready. We're going to record that completely live, just like overheads. We'll all put headphones on, we'll mic up the cabs, and everything will be live. Might overdub vocals. But we're all pretty excited about that. These are guys who like buy copies of Tape Op. Well, I don't buy them because it's free, but they get copies of Tape Op magazine, and like they're fully into the idea of doing things the old school way. I respect that. I mean, that's kind of how Carcass did their the last two records with Dan, at least, I think, you know, there's not a click track in sight. There's no grid, you know,
Did
just
they
record.
did they record Live Room?
I'm, I'm not sure. I think Bill was probably playing along with Dan. They would have kept whatever that scratch guitar track was, but I think
Yeah.
that might have started with Dan just recording the drums completely on his own. But I know that that's how they built it up. Like, it wasn't like, here's a tempo map.
Yeah. I older recordings of like a lot of the bands and stuff that I've done, we did it that way. Like we had a drummer who did not jive with a metronome or a click track at all. So we just jammed Live Room, no click, no nothing. Had, you know, all the cabs in different rooms. We mic'd a bass cab and then also ran a DI, and we had a singer in the other room. You know, we all had headphones on. We did like 3 takes per song, and then me and the producer just kind of sat and we chopped and edited the best takes of everything. And
That's nice.
the only overdubs we did were for like some guitar harmonies and stuff like that, which was fun.
Yeah, definitely. Guitar harmonies is my absolute favorite part of recording.
Right.
Always.
It was we had a really sick train wreck clone too. Like
What's that? I don't know what Trainwreck is.
it's like a real boutique-y sort of, I guess, a take on like a Marshall, like Plexi, like a Class A type amp where you just crank it up and get all the cool saturation. I Some people say it sits between like a Plexi and a oh god, a Dumble. Kind of sits somewhere in between there.
That's special.
A real train wreck is pretty much impossible to find, but there was a local amp guy around here. He used to build clones for people, and our producer had one. And then that website Cherryatone or Seriatone, however you say it, they sell a train wreck clone that's pretty. I've heard is pretty good.
I'm gonna find some Trainwreck Kemper profiles. I think like that's.
Dude, you need to. It's so good. The lead tone of those, like if you get those cranked, it's like sustained for weeks, you know?
Okay, I'm sold. I'm gonna go look for those later. Definitely.
Absolutely. Um, well, that's a good transition into the next question. Is there any gear that you're currently like eyeing, like stuff that you would maybe want for one of the different projects, or maybe just something for yourself personally?
Oh, wicked! Jesse's got a ton. Thanks, Jesse.
Nice.
Jesse's a bud of mine, and another Kemper. Nardo. I'm
Oh,
excited.
sick.
In terms of gear, no. The one thing I was really fetishizing was a 335, and I bought one last year, and I'm
Okay. Yeah, I've seen that.
struggling to stop playing it. It's just an incredible guitar. It used to belong to Frank, who's the rhythm guitar player in Slash's band. He he was posting some pictures on Instagram last year of some guitars he didn't need anymore, and suddenly I saw that. And it's just plain black. I got the pickups changed. I can't believe I haven't mentioned these pickups already on a gear chat. So Bill has his own custom pickups with this company called Monty's Guitars, based out of England. They're kind of like his set is like I think slightly hotter PAF in the bridge and a slightly warmer something else in the neck. Can't remember exactly, but I remember asking Bill if he'd mind if I ordered a set for myself, and he said no, of course not, and go for it.
Hmm.
And I've got those in my Carcass guitars, and I've got the Monty's PAFs, which are they're not quite as tailored towards super high gain, not shaped quite the same way that Bill has the Carcass ones, because very different beast
Yeah.
tuning. But yeah, the Monty's PAFs in the 335 is just an absolutely killer combination. I've used that. I used that on the last most recent bit of Pounder recording we did, and I really love the idea of using it with Carcass one day. But I'm I'm slightly concerned there might be some horrendous feedback issues. Like when I get really high volume, because those F holes, like it's funny when I've played it in jams with friends, like I can actually feel like air coming out of the F holes, like when we turn it up loud enough. Like
Yeah.
the definitely makes something strange. but the tone is so good and so is the sustain that it kind of makes me want to try. I used like 335s, right? And they always have a pretty heavy sound.
Uh, who did you mention?
Mastodon.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I was sitting here thinking of bands that have used either 335s or just semi hollows in general. Um,
Tunes might have had some in the early 90s. One of the guys, Nicker, maybe.
okay, I know. I know Pepper Keenan used to at least used to play one a bunch with Down,
Mm.
and Slim from Bury Your Dead. He had a custom semi hollow there for a little while, but I'm pretty sure both of those guys had EMGs in their semi hollows.
Oh, wow.
So at that point, I think it's just they just did that to say that they were playing semi hollows.
Yeah, I mean,
It probably didn't sound at all like you know.
EMG, EMGs, yeah, like they're an equalizer in that sense. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of them anymore. I had them to put some in one of my customers for a while, and
Oh,
yeah,
Jesse said Peppers was passive Gibson pickups. So
there we
okay,
go.
I always heard they were EMGs for some reason. Maybe it's just because I don't know. Maybe I just assumed. But
Yeah,
that's cool then. That's really cool.
trying to think of other gear. I mean, I've got a MIDI keyboard that's not great. I'd love to 498 and 500. Yeah, that's the set. We were talking about that a few weeks ago on our text, weren't we?
Yeah,
Pickups. Well,
yeah.
that's what I've still got in my black Les Paul custom, which I have used with Carcass on stage before. And like, yeah, I would never change those pickups out again. They're perfect.
Right. Yeah,
But
I think we were talking. Yeah, like the 490s and 498s, and then I'd love to find a 500 for like under $200 for a single 500. You know what I mean? It's like
I've never tried to buy one before. Did they go for a lot of money?
the last time I looked, which I was on Reverb, which whatever. Uh, Last time I was on Reverb, all I could find were guys out of the country, like in Italy or France, which automatically probably $80 to $100 shipping, and they were trying to sell them for like almost $300.
My God.
So, but I
Well,
know Greg from Car Bomb. If you've listened to them at all, uh, they're sick. Hey, there's Nick from Stonecutters.
what's up, Nick?
Me and him have been talk. We had a talk recently about like the 490 and 498s too. I was doing a lot of research on them, but yeah, Car Bomb. I know he is a big proponent of using the 500s, and he's got a really interesting setup.
So 500 go, is it a bridge or a neck pickup?
Bridge, super. It's supposed to be just like I think it's supposed to be Gibson's hottest proprietary pickup.
So the hottest pickup I ever had was what was it called? It was called a bare knuckle war pig. I bought a Sir custom probably about 10 years ago now, maybe a little longer, second hand, and that was already in it. And that thing was insane. Like I'd dial in like a crunch tone and it would already be feeding back. It was like hotter than Zach Wild's hottest EMG. So that thing had to
Oh
go
wow!
completely unmanageable. I've spoken about this, and a lot of the ones who I like, they're playing the most. They don't really go for hot pickups. They go for quite quiet ones. Like JB from Grand Magus is a good example. His pickups are like the opposite of a hot pickup,
Yeah.
and he does his rig shouldn't sound as good as it does. He has some like eight. Certainly when we toured with them years ago, he was using some big blue Digitech multi effects thing and running it just through the power stage of an angle
Wow.
using a
Huh.
preset called Able. I was like, this is insane, but it sounded amazing. I think a large part of that might be his hands, though. I
Right.
think that does come back to that with a lot of gear stuff. The famous story about Ted Nugent playing through Eddie Van Halen's rig and sounding like Ted Nugent rather than Eddie Van Halen.
I think Steve Vai has like a similar story too, talking about hanging out with Eddie and you know just the two of them sounding completely different. Uh, Sound like looks like your friend Jesse's willing to sell me a 500. So I may have lucked out here.
You may.
Um,
I'll definitely have a chat. Yeah.
Jesse, I will be hitting you up after this because I
Awesome.
think I think I sent you a picture of the guitar that I got coming, didn't I? The Silverburst.
You did, yeah, the double cutaway one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, which I don't think it's supposed to ship until September. Um,
Soon.
but I may love the pickups in it. I have a feeling if I don't swap it out, I know that I got some other guitars that could definitely use it. But
Excellent.
nice, it's worked out then. Uh,
I'm
you
massively
also
sorry.
got,
I
huh?
don't think I finished my thought before. I think I got distracted by something else. But when I was saying a keyboard, like the MIDI keyboard I got isn't great, I was thinking maybe a nicer keyboard with like more weighted keys or something.
Yeah,
Because I did used to play a little bit of piano. I never got good at it, but I think it would help with my home recording stuff a bit. And just generally getting my mind out of some of the same boxes I'm always in with the guitar, like just exploring different ways notes connect together and different ways chords work. I'm really interested. I think I'm finding that trying to learn a little bit more about funk playing and blues playing is having a positive effect on my metal playing because it's all part of the same vague skill set, like getting the hands working together, getting the brain to look at it in different ways.
right.
Because I want to do like with another Pounder album coming up, I've got like probably between 8 and 15 solos I'm going to need to write, and I don't just want to do the same shit I've done on the first two albums.
Yeah,
Best way I've tried to doing that is listening to lots of different music and like trying to play lots of different music.
I I think I read a long time ago some interview with Nurgle from Behemoth.
Hmm.
I think it was when the Apostasy album came out because he has some really cool leads on that album.
Yeah,
Um,
really like Turkish and Eastern sounding stuff, right?
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think he was saying that he tries to like he'll actually still take guitar like in-person guitar lessons, and he always tries to just bring in some new tricks and some new ideas to every single album. He never wants to try to repeat the same kind of lead ideas or anything like that.
I've,
Which
I,
I
yeah,
definitely hear it going from like demigod to apostasy. Just right there is a huge leap. And they've just gotten more and more creative as they've gone on.
that's absolutely fair to say. Yeah, I admire anybody who's able to do that. The closest I've come to doing that is I've signed up for a year of True Fire guitar lessons, and I'm going through some of the courses on there. But really, it's like foundational blues and jazz and funk stuff is what I'm looking at. Like nothing that's really opened my eyes yet. I find the shred class is a little scary because it's like, here's this crazy Dorian shred thing that goes into a sweep pick. It's like, yeah, but then I'm just going to sound like one of those guys. Like,
Right.
I, I think once stuff gets above a certain speed, it's more just like checking a box and saying you can do it rather than necessarily having a huge amount of musical merit. I don't know. Some people might disagree with that. Mostly people who can do it. I definitely fall short when it comes to that super technical stuff.
I I always try to write pretty melodically too when I'm
Mm.
doing lead stuff. And I mean, once you get into other genres, it's maybe a little bit easier. But like with metal specifically, especially if it's like really, really fast death metal, um, I think the two of the bigger influences, at least for me, when it comes to that are really good at incorporating the fast, shreddy stuff, but keeping it melodic would be like, and there are two different kind of approaches to it. Like Trey Azagthoth, he kind of is like the death metal Eddie Van Halen in a way, you know, like
Yeah, yeah.
got a kind of that controlled chaos thing going on. Uh, Lots of different, really out of the box kind of melodic ideas. You know, somebody said he sounds like he plays backwards one time.
Yeah,
Like
I hear
he'll
that.
do he'll do a cool run and then just all this like crazy washy, flanger kind of stuff over like weird bend, like really really weird bends thrown in there. Um, so I guess more like there's some shreddy stuff, but also a lot of like texture.
Mm.
And then someone else would be like Dave Suzuki, like his old stuff with Vital Remains. Um,
I don't know his stuff at all, actually.
very Ingve inspired. So like a very neoclassical kind of melody
Mm.
approach, which, you know, if you if the song is kind of structured for it, you know, classical music, that kind of melody, like it's a lot of melody that can still be very, very fast and technical. So it kind of lends itself to metal pretty well in that regard.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, if you've like you said, if you've got the right kind of structure and like chords and riffs going on
Yeah.
underneath, write that stuff, it can work perfectly. Like a lot of Marty's stuff with Megadeth.
Yeah,
And in a way,
absolutely.
it goes back to like new wave of British heavy metal as well. When you look at like Diamond Head, like the solo in Am I Evil, where it's like running through, you know, a
Yeah.
very bit of melodic chord sequence that lends itself to like changing key and
Hmm.
you know doing super tasty repeated arpeggio stuff over the top.
Absolutely. Uh, God, I love nerding out over lead guitar playing because
I've
there's
missed it.
there's a big punk and hardcore scene here where I live.
Mm.
So guitar solos are like very frowned upon, and yeah, even the guys I'm jamming with now do not care for guitar solos at all. I've had to get used to it.
I don't think be all and end all, you know. And I, you know, realistically, if you're a guitar player, you're going to be spending 95% of your time playing rhythm. Like if you're
Yeah,
going to be playing, if you're going to be like an Instagram stunt shred guitarist, sure, do it all the time. But
right.
that's where like the most important thing is being in control of your rhythm playing and your tempo, and you know, listening. I think and playing with other people. Like if anybody ever asks me, like what they can do to try and get better, I just like jam, play with other people. I go now that the pandemic is starting to light up here in California, and I'm able to go out like and jam with friends and go to our local jam night and stuff. Every single opportunity I can get, I'll go play with different people every time, pick different songs, pick songs that like three of the people know but the other guy doesn't, and just like do exaggerate each other to show where the changes are coming. Like that's where you learn the most, I think, is when you're on your feet and you know there's no safety net. You can't just hit stop and rewind and try it again.
Yeah. Um,
But I'm also like that. You know, I started playing in bands like when I was 14 years old in like 1997 or 1998, and that
mhm.
changed for me.
One one of the fun little workarounds though is when you can incorporate cool technical shreddy stuff into like a rhythm part, not necessarily a guitar solo. And that way you kind of get the
That
best of both.
when you can be a lead rhythm player, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I got really very Vaughan for a little while when I was about 20, and I love the way that he could kind of throw blues licks in while he was still playing the chords. You know, like the
Oh
way he
yeah.
felt. I'm trying to do a little bit of that with the trio I'm working on at the moment, but the songs are like so riffy, it's kind of hard to find space to do those little bits without that losing all the bottom out of the song. Yeah,
Um,
have to be a little clever about it.
yeah. Guthrie Govan did a really cool guitar lesson. And he was mainly talking about Hendrix and his approach to incorporating
Oh,
like
cool.
like kind of improv lead stuff into his rhythm playing, um, and kind of got me on a kick with doing that. It was really really fun actually.
Look that up. Guthrie's absolutely one of my heroes. Like, if people ever ask me who I think the best guitar player in the world is, like, certainly playing electric guitar, it's probably him. I really don't imagine anyone could be better.
He really is just kind of everything rolled into one, you know.
Yeah, like, I think, what was it called? Beautiful Slippery Thing came onto my Spotify shuffle
Yeah.
the other day. But for a couple of years, like, the whole of that Erotic Cakes album is amazing. But
Oh,
just, like, he's like five different styles of guitar, like, at expert level, like, in the space of 20 seconds on that tune.
yeah, absolutely.
You ever watched his thing on YouTube that's in like five parts? I think it's called like Guthrie Govern's Words of Wisdom or something.
I
He
think
spent,
so.
yeah, that thing blew my mind. Like, he didn't talk about anything specific on the guitar at all for the whole hour, but I felt like I was going to always approach the guitar differently after that. Just the way he talked about it was really something.
I need to look it up again. Maybe I haven't. I don't know. I need to. It sounds awesome.
I
Like a
loved
lot
it.
more conceptual ideas. It sounds like.
Very conceptual, yeah. Some of it probably gets a little bit kind of hippie, like a little bit out there, but that's him.
Yeah, yeah,
You just have to listen to him play guitar to know that it's probably worth listening to what he's got to say if he's got that kind of command over the instrument.
absolutely. Well, kind of coming to a close here. Taking my I'm taking my oldest son to go see wrestling tonight. But
Yes. What is it? Is it
huh?
WWE?
No, no, unfortunately not. This is more of a local thing, but one of my buddies is actually wrestling too.
He's a
Hmm?
super excited for you, dude. I'm going to my first live wrestling show for a very long time. I think in about 2 weeks.
Nice.
What kind of what kind of organization is it where you are? Pretty underground?
Fairly. I'm not sure how far they stretch out. I'm trying to remember even the name of what this company is. I think this is my first time seeing them. Uh, I it might be IEW. I'm not sure. Um, I I've gone to 3 different WWE shows. Um,
Nice.
I've got to see pretty much all my favorite wrestlers. Like I got a high five from the Undertaker, so like I'm good now. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Fuck. That's
Yeah.
big.
It's pretty funny because he was like he's so good about being in character, but he like I've always heard that he's such a friendly dude too. But he dedicates because he's old school.
Mm.
So like he'll be like mean like straight ahead mean mugging, but he's still got his hand out, high fiving all the kids that are hanging over the barrier. You know what I mean? So I got when I saw him, he was tag teaming with Kane.
The Brothers of Destruction.
Absolutely, and it wasn't on TV or nothing. It was you remember when they bought the rights to ECW some years back?
Yeah, in 2002, the whole invasion thing. Yeah.
It was I think it was actually maybe even slightly after that. They bought out ECW and tried to make it a third show.
Oh, that was like 2006. Yeah, when
Yeah,
Cena at the New York venue and all that stuff.
but it didn't do very well, and it was on like Sci-Fi Network or something.
Sounds right.
And they've moved a couple guys over there, like Kane, just to give it a little bit of star power. Because there was some classic dudes on there like Sandman, Balls Mahoney, but for the most part, it was a lot of new guys that nobody knew. But the house show that I went to was a joint SmackDown ECW show.
Sick.
So it was like the stars aligned to have Undertaker and Kane in the same. And it was like the year before Undertaker quit touring. So
Good timing.
yeah, so it was perfect. And I think they were wrestling like Eminem or somebody. I don't know, somebody from that whoever the big tag team was that year. But I mean, it was awesome. And then I want to go see AEW live. They kind of have all the hype wrestlers right now.
I would love to see like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega in real life. I'm really enjoying it. It's pretty cheesy, but
Yeah,
and I don't know. I feel like especially in the pandemic era, like WWE's shows are so sterile with like just like the million Zoom screens. At least AEW always had wrestlers around the side, and they've had fans back for a while now.
yeah.
It's wrestling without fans is just bullshit. It's not worth
I
watching.
tried I tried watching it and I'm like, oh my god, how can anybody sit through this?
Exactly. They had their first SmackDown back with fans last night, and it was amazing. Like
Yeah,
it was. I don't want to say I was getting emotional watching WWE, but I was.
know
So
what you mean.
Edge came out, and you just hear like the loudest roar you've ever heard, and you're like, "Oh wow, yeah, that's what it's meant to be."
If you want to talk emotional during wrestling, I was very, very actively watching when Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit both died.
Fuck, that's heavy.
Yeah, and like I never thought that I would get that emotionally attached to any kind of sport, anything. But like I don't know. I remember just getting super bummed out over that whole thing. And I've been watching Dark Side of the Ring on Hulu.
Me too, man. That show is incredible.
Yeah, and revisiting the whole Benoit thing. I don't know, just brought back a whole bunch of memories for me. But
Yeah, I've watched way too many documentaries about like the Owen Hart thing and like you
oh
said,
yeah,
thing. Like, the episode about Ultimate Warrior devastated me. I never realized what the whole deal was with him because I remember him just being a superhero when I was a kid. I didn't
yeah.
realize how much shit was going on.
I haven't seen that one yet.
But the interesting thing is, it turns out he really couldn't wrestle, like at all, which I didn't realize as a kid because you'd see him do his like three moves and it's like, wow, he's just so good. He beat the other guy in 2 minutes, but it's because he really do a match.
That's kind of the thing with a lot of guys. Like I've got a 3 DVD collection thing of Goldberg.
There's
Uh,
three pieces of Goldberg. Oh my god.
yeah, which I mean, really, that's almost his entire career there. It's like a 3 year. It's almost like a 3 year span.
Wow.
Like his run was super short.
Wasn't like 127 wins or something.
Yeah, that number fluctuates, but yeah, it was. Yeah, but I don't know if it needed to be 3 DVDs long. You know what I mean? Like
Jackhammer, jackhammer, jackhammer.
one DVD for each move, pretty much. Like you could have done, I don't know, one DVD and had like a couple matches from almost each year that he like. I don't know.
Yeah, Jesse's got it right there. One DVD for each move. Yeah. I
But
saw real life against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 33 or 31. I can't remember. The one where the Undertaker got beat by Roman Reigns. Then that was
I watched that. Yeah.
like. I went to Monday Night Raw the night afterwards as well, and that was the night Roman came out for the first segment, and he just got booed for 15 minutes straight.
I remember that.
It was that was one of the loudest rooms I've ever been in my life.
That no lie, I was that year leading up to it. I kind of got back into it again with my son, and I watched up to that, and then after that Monday Night Raw with Roman, I was like, you know what, I'm done. Like,
Nothing the Undertaker did afterwards was too good. Like that really should have been the end. Like nearly getting killed by Goldberg in Saudi Arabia was a low point. Like,
yeah.
man,
Well.
so you invite me onto your wrestling Twitch show next time, and we'll talk about that.
Absolutely. We'll just nerd out about wrestling and not even talk like guitar or music or nothing.
Yeah, and some stereotype of people who like like death metal and heavy music and wrestling at all. Like,
I know we're checking off every box for every cliche or almost.
I moved to the States. Like the fact that WWE wasn't going to be on at like 4 o'clock in the morning anymore for me was one of the high points. It's like, wow, I can watch all the pay-per-views now, like when they're on.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a local promotion here in the Bay Area in Oakland called Hood Slam, which is fantastic. Like they used to have Shotzi Blackheart, who just debuted on SmackDown last week.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Cage came in and actually did an impersonation of Triple H for a match a couple of years ago, like wearing a wig and the whole Triple H get up. The commentator even like went all in on pretending it was the Cerebral Assassin.
That's funny.
I cannot wait for it to starts up again in 2 weeks.
Nice.
And it's out. They found an outdoor spot as well. I mean, how do you feel about going to shows? Are you going to indoor shows again now? Where you are?
Nothing started up yet, but one of the bigger local venues around here, I think, is gearing up to start doing shows. I know they've got, I want to say it's towards the end of September. They've got I Hate God scheduled.
Oh, cool.
So I got to double check. I'm definitely going to try to go to that. Just, I love that band.
Yeah.
All right. We'll wrap this up real quick with how I always close these things and ask you what your top 4 death metal bands are. I know you're not the huge death metal nerd or whatever. So maybe how about four British heavy metal bands?
I can go with death metal. It's cool. I'm
Okay.
definitely gonna say Necrot. I'm definitely. I'm really enjoying Blood Incantation at the moment. I played them that new record of theirs last year a lot. Um, I mean, my favorite one is Carcass, but that's a bit of a cop out.
Hey,
But
no, that's totally cool.
long before I ever played with them, so actually I'm going to stick with them. I'm just going to have a quick look at all the new records we bought recently next to me. The fourth one's going to be the first death metal one I find. Oh yeah, At the Gates. Because that
Perfect.
new album, I really really like it. I think it's cool that they're still finding new things to do as well.
Nice.
But I don't think there's been much saxophone on their previous records. This new one definitely has that.
Hell yeah, killer. Well, man, thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah,
This was a blast. This went a lot longer than what I was anticipating. It was just fun.
yeah, it's good to talk to you, man. We'll do it in real life over some beverages at some point.
Hell yeah, sounds awesome. Hopefully after a Carcass show or something.
I would be amazed if they're not touring the US at some point next year. What about MDF? Are you going to be there?
We were just looking at that the other day. What month is that again?
The end of May.
End of May. Try to. It's hard. It's hard with two kids. You know what I
Sure.
mean? But I
Well,
want. I definitely want to go. Isn't like more? God, yeah. It's all coming back to me now. Who all's actually playing? I may have to.
I want to put Impaled in my list, my top four actually, because I just remember they're playing MDF as well, and I fucking love those guys.
Who?
Impaled,
Impaled. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. God.
definitely in them, and some absolutely sick guitar playing.
Absolutely for sure. But oh, thank you, thank everybody for tuning in. The turnout was actually really good for this. A lot of cool people chiming in, and thank you, Tom, for coming on. This was fun. Can't wait to do it again, man.
Having me, dude. All the
Yeah,
best. Enjoy.
absolutely. See y'all.
Easy.